And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. I'm Mike Harrison, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. Have you ever asked yourself how much you need to save for retirement? And for a moment, I'm not going to talk about real estate investing. I'm going to talk about the conventional wisdom world where people put a portion of their paycheck each and every month into a 401k or an IRA, and I was in that world for a long time. I thought that's what you have to do. That's what I was told to do. That's what I was taught to do. But you've always got to have that end goal in mind, right? So how much do you have to save? How much do you need for retirement? I used to ask myself that all the time because I didn't want to wake up when I'm 58 years old and go, oh, snap, I'm in trouble. We're not going to have enough to retire or to live the fulfilling retirement that we're all promised, right? You see the commercials on TV, and it's got the older silver-haired couple, and they're frolicking around in their rolled-up khaki pants, and their light pink shirt sleeves are rolled up, and they're frolicking around on some incredible beach somewhere in the Caribbean or Australia or something like that, and it's typically a credit card commercial because that's what retirement is, right? We now have all this money, and now we get to live, right? Now we can live, not during the 40 years prior to that when we're just working and working and working, and we're working to save to put that money in that retirement. But what's the number have to be? I used to ask myself that all the time. Well, at the time, I thought it was going to be a minimum of $3 million. How did I come up with that number? Well, 4% of $3 million, and they always use the term 4%. Now, that's changed. We're going to unpeel this throughout the show. I mean, all these numbers have changed, okay? Keep that in mind. This was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. I used to always try to reverse engineer and do the math, but I figured a minimum of 3 just to get by. Why? Because 4% of $3 million is $120,000. Pre-tax, okay? Pre-tax. And you may be saying, hey, Harrison, 120 is a lot of money. No, they're going to pull taxes out of that. So let's call it, let's go with 60% of that. So essentially you're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about, I don't know, $65,000, $75,000, and that's what you're going to live on. And that, again, may sound like a ton of money, but again, we're projecting into the future, right? What continues to grow? Taxes, health care, inflation. So it's really not a ton of money. So I started, this was important to me at the time, and I went back and revisited that over the weekend, and I just started doing some online searches, and I found several articles that actually use that today, recent articles. One was called Retirement Dreams. 3 million is the new 1 million. That was on Market Watch. There was one, and we'll dig into this one a little bit, on a website called The Financial Samurai, and it says, are you a real millionaire? 3 million is the new 1 million. And this just came out in July. And honestly, I'm thinking, my gosh, inflation's so high. I think that number's probably 4 million is the new 1 million. And where the article goes is it talks about that mindset, right? That we all have in mind of $1 million is just a ton of money. And so it's that mythical $1 million thing. And I'll tell you now, $1 million in 1985 or 1990, yeah, that was a lot of money. Today, is it a lot of money? I don't know. Let's talk about it because, again, if you're using 4%, which is what they used to say years ago, you can pull 4% out of it, and supposedly you draw down on that $1 million to the tune of 4%. So 40 grand a year, and you draw down, and supposedly, or you hope that you don't run out of money before you die. And if you start that drawdown when you're 65 or 70, and let's say you live to be 90, 95, 100, we'd all like to live to be that old and to be functioning and healthy, but I don't want to be that old and be broke or poor or having to rely on the government for Social Security, what's going to happen with that? So these articles, they say today you need a net worth of at least $3 million, not $1 million when you retire. $3 million, not $1 million. And I'm going to tell you how you can essentially, with real estate, control $3 million in real estate, get the benefits as if you owned the entire $3 million. In fact, they actually will say you own it, even though there's leverage on it with the bank. You can do that for a lot less and make a lot more than that fictitious 4%. But now a lot of these articles are talking about 3%. So 3% of $3 million is only $90,000 that you're going to draw down. Only 90 pre-tax again. Keep that in mind, friends. Keep that in mind. But what's the problem? Back then in the 90s, a median home, I looked it up, was $117,000. Okay? You know what the median home price is today? $400,000 in just 30 years. Look how things have changed. What was gasoline back then? Back when you imagine, hey, I'd love to be a millionaire. Yeah, in 1990 it made sense, but today it doesn't make so much sense. Gasoline, $3, $4, $5, maybe even higher. Taxes continue to go up. And not only is it taxes, it's property tax. It's a fee for this. It's a fee for that. We got to register the car. There's a fee for that. We've got to get the car inspected. There's a fee for that. Cell phone. There's all these fees on our cell phone. We want internet at our house. It's almost essential to have internet at your house. It is essential to have internet at your house. There's all the fees associated with that. And then inflation. What do groceries cost? I promise you it's not 9%. I got a household of 5 people. We drop easily our grocery bill every time we visited went from $200 to $300 in just a few months. And we're not buying filet mignon. Trust me, that's just essentials to feed the family. Again, Social Security, I didn't even get started. I promise you the minimum age for Social Security is going to go to 70 plus. I'm Mike Harrison. If you have any questions for me or how to get started in real estate investing or anything about Lifestyles Unlimited, I'm here to help. Please send me an email. My email address is askmike@luinc.com. askmike@luinc.com. So today we're talking about how much you need to save for retirement. Okay, yes, this is a real estate investor show. I encourage you to invest in real estate, cash flowing real estate. It's amazing how fast you can grow your wealth. It's amazing how much passive income you can create. But let's look at the other side of the coin, right? For what most people do. They are essentially taking a portion of their earnings and they're investing them in either a 401k or an IRA. That's the conventional wisdom world. And then when you look at that and you go, okay, well, when can I stop? What's the number I need to get to so that I can get into this world called retirement? And so I started looking at that. And again, I lived this for years. I would reverse engineer what my 401k, how fast it was growing, what it was going to be. And I told myself that the number I wanted at the time was a minimum of 3. I really wanted to shoot for $4 million in that account. And that sounds like a ton of money, but at the same time, the financial planners are saying you can pull 4% of that, and that number is now 3%. But anyway, you can pull 4% of that. So if I hit the $4 million, that would be $160,000 per year pre-tax. Call it $120 after taxes. Call it $10,000 a month. That's what I wanted. Why? So my wife and I could travel, so we can take care of our grandchildren, if or when we have grandchildren, or we can bless others in our life, but we can live in that world that we've worked 40 years for. 40 years. So I started looking online, and there's a ton of articles out there that basically just say 1 million isn't what it used to be, and we all know that, and really 3 million is the new 1 million. And when you read into it, there's financial planners. Now, these are stock investment articles typically, okay? And those financial planners are saying at 3 million, they use the term relative comfort. Relative comfort. So even they're correct too, by the way. They're correct. Things are very, very expensive. I agree with them on that. I'm going to tell you 4 million's the new 1 million. If that's your plan on how you're going to get to retirement, if that's your plan, friends, it's 4 million. These articles are saying 3, and they just came out. It'll be 4 before you know it. Inflation is outrageous. I did a show, actually, now that I think about it, this was in 2020. COVID, the Secure Act had just come out recently, and I was watching and reading about the Secure Act, and even then, the government admitted quietly that when they were putting the Secure Act together, that 1 million in retirement is the bare minimum. Think about that. Even the government's saying that. And this is what makes it so preposterous, is that most people, literally the majority of people, I think the average in someone's 401k is about $70,000. So even the government's telling you, you got to have 1 million in retirement just for the bare minimum. They don't complete that thought, though, and because their plan is failing. And I knew that I couldn't save that. That's what led me on this alternate path. Also, I was sick and tired of the stock market corrections. I'd just gone through 2008, 2010, and 40% of my net worth was wiped out during that time. 40%. So essentially, I knew I was going to have to work longer. I knew I was going to have to make more money. I knew I was going to have to save more money. And that's what led me on this alternate path, where I finally just threw my hands up in the air and said, we're not going to be able to retire using this 401k IRA plan. At least we're not going to be able to retire with the life that we had worked so hard for, that my wife and I had planned, that my wife and I wanted. So I bought that first rental property way back when. I did everything wrong, and then that led me to Lifestyles Unlimited. And what I learned at Lifestyles Unlimited, and what I learned as a real estate investor, we don't have to save $3 or $4 million. We can invest and control $3 or $4 million in real estate. Think about the difference there. Plan A, save $3 million, put it in a retirement account, and pull 4% of that. Plan B, my plan says, well, let's see if we can get to where we own, quote unquote, own $3 to $4 million in properties. And guess what? You can do that with 20% or less. 20% or less. Easily, very easily. 200 grand will easily purchase over $1 million in real estate. Think about that. 200,000 will easily purchase over $1 million in real estate. Why? Because you're using leverage. You're bringing the bank to the deal. But listen to this. That $1 million in real estate is all working for you. The passive income created with $1 million in real estate, that's at least 5, maybe 7 houses, will put you well over $1 million portfolio. Well over. So do you want to try to save yourself to 3 or 4 million, or do you want to invest your way, and quite rapidly you can get that portfolio that is easily greater than 3 and 4 million in just a few short years. And you're not starting with a ton of money. I just did a show a week ago or 2 weeks ago on the cash flow snowball. And I talk about how you can start with $35,000, $35,000 to $50,000, sometimes much less than that, and acquire a portfolio of single-family houses that is probably very close to $2 million in 8 years. $2 million in 8 years. And what's happening? That $2 million, whereas you have leverage on it with the bank, is all working for you. You're getting the passive income from that. You're getting the rent pay down, which is going in your pocket each and every month. What else are you getting? Appreciation on those properties. If you have $2 million in real estate, now it's not $2 million out of your pocket. Again, you're in there for 20, 25% of that. So call it somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 to $500,000, worst case, but you're getting the entire benefits of a multi-million-dollar portfolio, and that multi-million-dollar portfolio is appreciating. If they're appreciating at 5 or 6% per year, what is that? That's easily over $100,000. Again, it's unrealized. It's totally unrealized. You get to, when you sell the house or when you do the refi or what have you, then that income is realized, but you're making it just the same. You are making it. It's a deferred payment that will come to your into your pocket. At some point down the road, at some point of your choosing, you will be able to free those funds, but you're still growing at that rate with just the appreciation on it. Now, we don't buy for appreciation. We don't plan on appreciation. That's more of speculation. I think people that go buy real estate and they say, well, one day it'll be worth X, and it will be. We just talked about median home prices are $400,000, and in 1990 they used to be a little over $100,000. So they will appreciate, but that's not why we buy. My name is Mike Harrison. We'll be right back. You're listening to Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, not because that's the way it's set up, but because of the knowledge.
When put into action, knowledge is power. At Lifestyles Unlimited, we empower you to live the lifestyle of your dreams through passive real estate income. For over 30 years, our successful members share their knowledge through case studies, classes, and mentoring. Tap into the knowledge. Attend a free workshop online. Register now at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. I'm Mike Harrison, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. If you miss any part of this show, you can always pick us up on your favorite podcast app right there on your smartphone. Subscribe to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. It will load automatically. You can stay in tune. You can pick up this show. You can hear the show from the other host, Andy Webb, Al Gordon. Just a lot of information there, and it's all really at your fingertips. That's how I typically listen to the show in my time, if I'm driving, working in the yard, what have you. We have our own, essentially our own channel on YouTube, Lifestyles Unlimited. Ton of information there. And then you can always find us on the website, lifestylesunlimited.com. So I got to thinking over the weekend, just because I used to do this equation in my head all the time when I was in the conventional corporate world and saving for retirement. They tell you to save for retirement, but rarely do they tell you how much you need to save for retirement. I knew what that number needed to be because I was reverse engineering, saying, well, if I save X and I pull 4%, then we'll have this much to live on, right? You're drawing down on your retirement, your bag of money. You're pulling a little bit out month in and month out, and you just hope that when you finally leave this world that there's still some money in the bag. But then I started looking, and I think there's just a ton of noise out there that'll tell you $3 million is really, they use the term relative comfort. So imagine having to save $3 million in today's world. Do you know how impossible that is? And honestly, it's going to take more than that if that's your plan. It's going to take more than $3 million if that's your plan. So they say $3 million is the new $1 million, and that's how they're kind of justifying this whole thing. But then you start reading further into some of this information, and there are actually step by step on what you need to do to save to get to 1 million, 2 million, and 3 million. And they're just constantly pushing this positivity, this optimism that you're going to be able to do it. And I'll tell you, it's not happening. It's not happening at all. Will you be able to save to 3 million? Because if not, you're going to need another plan. And I recommend you take a look at Lifestyles Unlimited. We have free workshops online, and you can see what we do, how we do it, how we make money 5 ways on a property. I talked a little bit about that in the last segment, how we make it 6 ways on multifamily properties. But if you don't have a plan to make it to 3 million, you're going to work for the rest of your life. And sadly, 20% of people over the age of 70 are still working. I believe it's 20% of people between the ages of 70 to 74 to be correct. And I think after that, your body just gets so broken that you can't work, and that happens to some people at a much younger age. What percentage of the population in the United States has a net worth of $1 million? That's the real news, my friend. That's the real. So if it works, there should be a lot of millionaires, right? Well, there's not. Only 3%, 3 out of 100 people in the United States, in the richest country ever in the history of humankind, only 3% of the U.S. population has a net worth of over $1 million. Yet, when you start looking at their retirement plans, even the government says, well, $1 million is the bare minimum. They admitted that during the Secure Act 2 years ago. Articles are saying $3 million is the new $1 million. I'll tell you it's $4 million, but I knew 12 years ago I wasn't going to be able to save that money. I'm just one of the few people that admitted it. I admitted it to myself. I looked in the mirror and said, Harrison, this isn't working. You got to do something different. You need to do something different. And so that's how I got into purchasing rental property. And I tried it on my own. I didn't fail. I still made money, but at the same time, here, this is the retirement plan, right? And if it's something as important as retirement, then you better get good at it. So that's when I found Lifestyles Unlimited. And they taught me how to be effective. And for 10 years, I've been investing in real estate, and it has changed my life. Absolutely 150% changed my life. Now, I have some guests on this show occasionally. If you've been listening to me for any amount of time, I'll interview them, and all sorts of different people at different stages in their real estate investing path. And I always try to ask them this question. I always try to say, are you where you thought you would be when you started investing in real estate? Are you where you thought you'd be? And everyone always says no. And they don't say no in a negative way. They say, no, I'm way further than I thought I would be. I'm way wealthier than I thought I would be. My cash flow is better than I thought it would be at this point of investing. It's always better. I can tell you 10 years ago, if you told me, Harrison, you will have a portfolio of real estate that is this large, that is worth this much money, that is cash flowing at this level, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have said, that's amazing. That's amazing. And it really does grow that fast. It really does. I want you to understand, if we're all set, if we all agree that it's $3 million or $4 million is what the number is, what if you had a plan to control $3 or $4 million in real estate? Well, what does that mean? Well, you can control, imagine, let's just take a $100,000 house, okay? For instance, let's say there's a house for $100,000. Do we go spend $100,000 in cash to buy that rental property? Not if you're listening to us at Lifestyles. You don't have to. What we're going to do is we're going to essentially buy that property that's worth $100, but we're going to do it one better. We're going to find a house that, let's be nice here, let's just say it needs some love. It has not been cared for in a very, very long time. Okay? It's dirty. It's outdated. It's not functional. Things are broken. There's a lot of work that needs to be put into it. And so we find that house and we actually buy it for $80,000. Again, do we bring $80,000 in cash? Nope. Not if you're following what we teach you at Lifestyles Unlimited. The worst use of your money is to tie it all up in that property. We buy it with a down payment. We go to the bank and we say, bank, here's a property that once it's clean, safe, functional, fixed, is worth $100,000. I'm going to buy it for $75,000 or $80,000, and I'm going to put $15,000 in it, and I'm going to fix everything, and I'm going to make it much nicer, much more functional, and I'm going to put a resident in there. And the bank says, that's a great plan. Why don't I give you 80% of what you need to buy that property? Why don't I give you 75% of what you need to buy that property? Perfect. And so you bring that down payment and you buy the property. But what's happening? You have the full benefits of that $100,000 house for what, 20%? Less than 20% of that $100,000 if you're buying it right? Way less. So worst case, $20,000 is controlling $100,000. Now, don't get caught up in that, because a lot of you out there, I can hear you right now, you're going, Harrison, there's no $100,000 houses. I'm just using that as an example for math on the show. Add some zeros to that number, okay? Add some zeros to that. What if we can control $1 million in real estate for worst case $200,000? Imagine that. How would you like to have $2 million in real estate for $400,000? Is that a trade you'd make? $6 million for $600,000. Again, worst case scenario, you're probably going to be in it for much less, but the magnitude, you're controlling that entire portfolio for small percentages. And the portfolio is the benefits. You're getting the cash flow on a monthly basis of that entire portfolio. You're getting the tax benefits of that entire portfolio. You're getting extra money when the mortgage, yes, again, the mortgage is paid down each and every month. When the residents that live in that portfolio pay the rent, we pay the principal, the taxes, the interest, and the insurance, and the leftover comes to us, but you're getting that principal pay down. If you have any questions about Lifestyles Unlimited, about how to get started as a real estate investor, please reach out to me. My email address is askmike@luinc.com, askmike@luinc.com. Now, I need to take a moment. I want to talk about something that we have never done before. Our 32nd anniversary is September 8th, right around the corner. September 8th, 32nd anniversary. What are we doing for that? Well, we're having a special anniversary case study. Now, case studies are member-only events. It's where we meet as a group. We do it once a month at all of our various offices, and case study is exactly that. We'll have typically 3 different actual case studies where people will get up and they will say, here's the house I bought, here's how I found it, here's what the repairs I did to the house, here's how much I spent on this particular property, here's how fast I rented it out, here's how much it's cash flowing, here's how much the equity capture, here's the vendors I used, everything. It's all right there. And we typically do 2 single-family properties, case studies with different folks. And then the third one will be a multi-family property. So you'll get to see it. Now, if you're not a member of Lifestyles Unlimited, we are inviting you to this case study. You can go to lucasestudy.com, lucasestudy.com. You can attend in person. It's in Houston. You can attend virtually online. But if you go to lucasestudy.com, there's more information there, and you can register to attend either virtually or in person this case study. Come see it for yourself. Case studies are the most powerful thing that we do month in and month out because we're seeing real people, real results. I've done a case study twice, 2 different times I've presented at case study, and it is real. And I can remember the first time I went to a case study, I mean, literally, I think my jaw hit the floor. I was like, holy mackerel, I can't believe that person made that much money on that property. That's amazing. I mean, I've seen returns in the multi-100%. I've seen returns in the 1,000%. How would you like to make 1,000% return on your money? 1,000% return. It's incredible. $100,000 turns into $1 million. Now, it takes time, and it's, annualized, that return's different, but the entire deal returned that. I've seen houses easily return over much, much greater than 100%. I saw a case study, my gosh, a month, maybe 2 months ago, where a gentleman purchased, his out-of-pocket was $8,000. His out-of-pocket was $8,000. Now, this was a really beat-up home, and I know conventionally this sounds crazy to a lot of you, but literally the more beat up the home, if you can buy it right, it's going to be less money out of pocket. So $8,000 out of pocket. You know what his equity capture was? $88,000. $88,000. Now, again, it's unrealized. Where's that number come from? Well, that comes from an appraisal. Okay, that comes from a third party. That comes from the bank. Yes, this property is worth X, and banks know what they're doing. Why? Because they're loaning on the property. They don't want to over lend you. That's the last thing they want to do. They want you to be in that property right and know that you can pay what needs to be paid because they want their money back. Okay, they want their money back. So, speaking of money, how much do you need to save for retirement? Have you ever done that? If you're not investing in real estate, have you ever sat down with yourself and said, what's that number I'm trying to get to? What's that number? And so I started thinking about it over the weekend and did a few online searches, and they'll tell you 3 million is the new 1 million. And what they're really saying is you need at least $3 million. Now, what form is that $3 million in? Is it in your house? Is it in some land? Is it in cattle? Is it in gold bars? No. These financial planners, when you start reading into this, and these all end up being, here's how you can get there, and here's what you can need to do. And we're going to get into some of that in a second. but they're saying you got to have that $3 million, and that $3 million needs to be invested in the stock market, mutual funds, stocks, bonds. How sick would your stomach be if you had $3 million in the stock market these last few days? I think at the time of doing this show, it's down 250 points. Last week, it was down 1,000 points. This whole year, it's not. I would literally be nauseous if I had $3 million in the stock market. And I know you stock market proponents are like, well, Harrison, it's going to come back. It always does, right? You just got to trade in an extra 5, 8 years, and then you're back to even. No, you lost that money. It's gone. You lost it. They always say, oh, well, you really don't lose until you sell. Yeah, you do. If I'm looking at a statement on my 401k and it's down 20%, don't tell me that I didn't lose 20%. You did. It's gone. You have to make up the difference. But they tell you when you're online, they say, oh, you can get to this $3 million. You can get to $4 million if you're determined. And it's far-fetched. I had to read into one of these just to kind of say, well, how are we going to get there? And again, they're all positive. They're all optimistic. I actually found an article that says how to save 1 million, 2 million, or 3 million, depending on when you start saving by age. It's not happening, friends. And then the article, they use the term, for the new target, it's simply a matter of mathematics. Wow. If that's not the most profound statement you've heard today, and I hope you can hear the sarcasm in my voice, it's simply a matter of math. And they do. They provide some math. And they have some assumptions. So let's get the assumptions out of the way. They say you have no savings when you start. You get a 6% return in the stock market annually. And based on that, you can retire at 67. Woo! Well, thank you. Boy, I only had to wait 40 years, and then I get to finally live. But their math, here it is. They say, all right, here's what you need to get to 1 million. Start when you're how old? 20 years old, and save $319 a month. That's 47 years, my friends. That is 564 months. How many 20-year-olds do you know that are disciplined, and I have 2 of them in my house, that are disciplined enough to save $319 a month? I will tell you, there are some 20-year-olds that are able to do it, that do it, that are good that way. That is not the norm. I will tell you the norm is these kids aren't saving $319 a month. So, again, you save $319, and what's the theme of this show been? That 1 million isn't going to do it. 1 million's not going to do it. But this article is like, well, here's how you get to 1 million. Start when you're 20 and you save $319 a month. Or start when you're 30 and save $613 a month. Start when you're 40 and save $1,240 a month. And if you start when you're 50, they say you can get there if you save $2,831 a month. Again, this is in a vacuum. You've got to have that 6% return in the stock market annually, and we all know that's not happening right now. So, again, if you're 50 and everything you have is in the stock market and you're looking out on the horizon, you're like, I can kind of see 67 from here. I'm going to be really tired and really worn out by that time, but I can kind of see that speck of light way out there in the distance, and that's called retirement. And holy cow, if we have a week like we just had or a year like we've had in the stock market, womp, womp, wow, you just lost the game show, man. You're down. You're down. You're not going to get there. So 67, you're going to have to push that out to 77. 70, I don't know. Anyway, the article goes on. Let's get really crazy. Let's try to save $2 million. Well, $2 million if you're 20 years old, $639 a month is what you need to be socking away into the market. Again, I don't know many 20-year-olds that can do that. Maybe there's a few, but not many at all, or that even want to. I mean, your mind at 20 years old is about what's going on today, what's happening this evening, where am I going on Friday, I was 20 once, I remember those days. I darn sure wasn't putting aside $639 a month But if you find that kid that's that disciplined, wow, we'll pat him or her on the shoulder and say, great job, but why don't we take that money and go invest in real estate, and you can retire way sooner than 67 years. I mean, if you find me the 20-year-old that's got $639 a month, I'll teach that 20-year-old how to put it in real estate, and by the time they're 30, they will be a millionaire and they will retire if they want. But they probably want to keep going. And I've seen it here at Lifestyles Unlimited many, many times. So they go through the ages. If you want $2 million and you start when you're 30, it's $1,200. If you start when you're 40, it's $2,400. If you start when you're 50, it's $5,600. And again, you have to do that for another 17 years to again get to what they say is the okay age to retire, 67. Here it is, $3 million. $3 million's the new $1 million. That's the number. That's what they tell us. So you want to hit it? All right, 20-year-old, you want to hit that $3 million because that's what you're going to need minimum to have, as they use the words, relative comfort. All right, 20-year-old, $958 a month, and do that for 47 years. 30-year-old, that's probably more in tune when most people actually will start thinking about retirement or setting money aside. That's $1,839 a month for 37 years. Wow, that's a lot of money. 40 years old, $3,720, $3,720. And 50 years old, $8,493 a month. $8,493. It's just impossible. It's not going to happen. It's all noise. And for pennies next to that dollar, you can easily acquire $1 million, $2 million in real estate using our plan. My name is Mike Harrison. We'll see you next week. I want you to remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.